This is Ron again. I'm going to talk about float volume turnover. We were just calling it float turnover, but the float volume turnover name is more descriptive of actually, or what this actually is, I should say. Now, I am going to be using one of these views here, and I'll just use the second one. These are in your VPA views. I made a few changes and modifications, and I will make these available this weekend for you to update your add-ons. And the whole purpose of this add-on, the ability to change your add-ons with this version of install add-ons, is because I can make slight modifications and get them out to you much sooner than before. We used to do it about twice a year, but as I make changes, I can put these up on the server as often as I want to. And I will get you these sometime over this upcoming weekend. First, I want to point out some changes that I've made. I have added a group line, which I think is very important when we're looking at any stock to see what the group is doing. I have also eliminated some text over here. I moved it over here, and I also put the industry group name in. This is on the black version of the chart and the white version. I did not put this information on the VPA version of the chart because it would have been too cluttered. Notice that I changed the name to float volume turnover. I also want to point out that these numbers here match the numbers in the warehouse. Now, the stock that I currently have in here is this stock right here, Natural Health Trends Corporation, because I thought I selected this one because I thought it would demonstrate some of the features of float volume turnover better than some of the others, but I will look at some other stocks. Now, I do want to bring up the calculator and show you how the float turnover number comes to fruition. I'm going to bring up the calculator, and I have arranged these columns a little bit differently. It is the float divided by the 50-day moving average volume will give us times 1 million, because these shares are in millions of shares, will give us the number of float turnover days. So I'm going to put the number 7.6 in here, and I'm going to divide that by 700,370 equals this number, and then I'm going to multiply that by 1 million, and I'll hit my enter key, and if we round this off, this would be 10.9 for the float turnover, or the average number of days that it takes for the volume to turn over the outstanding float of this stock. I do want to point out that these numbers don't necessarily agree with the actual float numbers over here. I'm going to bring up my, didn't want to do that, I want to bring up the information window, and I need to move back here. I'm going to put my crosshair on, and then I'll just back it over until we get yesterday's information, which was a Thursday. Now, the float turnover periods, the last period, I'll freeze this, it's 18. The float turnover period here was 10.9. You can see it's 10.9 up here also, which matches the warehouse view. Now, these float numbers can change dramatically, and it is because the volume is either increasing or decreasing. if the volume is increasing, the outstanding float of the shares is going to turn over much faster. So this current float area right here, with the amount of volume, it took 18 days for the float to turn over. Now the volume had subsided considerably. And how can I tell that? Because I look up here and I see that this blue line is moving up. During this period, when the volume was increasing dramatically, this blue line was moving down. You can see the volume spiking up here. I'm going to turn the arrows off and I will move this back. Look at the volume turnover here. I'm going to drag it over. Here's what I want to do. I want to get both of these in here. Because the volume was so extreme compared to this volume up here or this volume over here, this float turnover period was only 4 days because the volume was so extreme. You can see it here. Now if I look ahead to the next period, so here is this float period, right, turnover period here, and here is the next turnover period, which was 18 days. So what does this information tell me at this point? Well, this is the way I interpret it. We are getting near the upper edge of this float turnover period here, the most recent one, and you can see it both up here. This red line and this green line are the boundaries, the upper and lower boundaries of this float turnover period. And you can see that it is almost at the point of breaking past this area. What this does is it establishes a high of the turnover period and a low. Here's the low, here is the high. It's almost at the breakout point. The volume has gone down considerably as this stock has been basing. This tells me that people have bought. This was a climatic action here, a selling climax, buying climax, whatever you want to call it, and then buyers stepped in and they are not selling now. They're hanging on to it as this stock works its way higher. This is the Specialty Pharma Group. Yesterday I did a video and I said the Specialty Pharma stocks, some of them were starting to base. The group has continued down. You can see it falling. It's flattened out here. This stock is stronger than its group because it formed a higher low. Here's a higher high here. It formed a higher high here, pulled back just a little bit yesterday, and I'll turn on the intraday here and we'll see what's doing today. But this tells me that it's being accumulated and people, traders, institutions are holding on to it. Okay, I'm going to enable the intraday and I'll do an F5 to update this. And this is today, as you can see. Now it broke past this area, but now this is the float turnover period because this shifted to the right, and now this green arrow here represents, see where it shot up? It turned up here. Actually, it turned up yesterday. It's kind of hard to see, but this slope started going up, so it actually turned up back here. I didn't see this before. Notice how this was flat and then it moved up there and it went above that area but then retraced, and now this green line is moving up again, but now we're into this float period is moving this way. This is the float volume float turnover period currently, and it is taking today into account. But this will not be valid today until the day finishes because we don't know what the volume's going to be. You can see how small the volume bar is down here, but the point is it broke past yesterday's high, and it is moving up now. But if I look over here, and I just updated these, you can see that this stock, wow, it moved up 10.43% today, but the volume is running under the 50-day moving average volume. So 37.5. We're getting a breakout right now here on lighter volume, but the point is it is going up, and this would be considered a valid breakout of the float volume turnover period that we saw yesterday. So this is a good example. Now let's look at some of these other stocks in this group. Now you can see that this one is clearly going down. This would be today. No, this would be, let's see, Friday. Yes, this is today. I updated all these. So the group is not updated because I did not run a full update or update these indexes. But you can see that there is accumulation coming into this stock. Now notice that when this stock was falling, the blue line was going down, and now it's plateaued. The blue line is plateaued, so the volume is falling off. You can see it clearly here. But this turnover period for Eagle Pharmaceuticals is dramatically different than the turnover, the float volume turnover period for National Health Trends. This stock was still going down until about 4 days ago, and then it started bouncing. You can see that the volume was high during this period. It plateaued, and it is starting to base sideways. The selling is may be pretty much out of it. I'm not going to say it's totally gone, but what I would like to see is I would like to see, as the stock accumulates, and hopefully it will accumulate, that this box will narrow, which will signify that it is basing, and it's kind of like a Darvis box. Let's go back to Natural Health Trends and look at this. So during this period over here, where it was turning over very rapidly, notice how tall the turnover periods are. But then when it got in here and started slowing down, the volume fell off. It started basing sideways as it was being accumulated. And I'd like to see the same thing happen with Eagle Pharmaceuticals before I would even consider it. Now, it goes without saying that you always need to be aware of the earnings date of any stock that you're considering. But I believe this is a very powerful technique to determine when the entire float turns over based upon volume. Now, this is 100% of the float. There is an option in this program. You can go in here and you can edit the indicator, go to the float turnover. If you make the assumption that of the shareholders that only 50% of them would sell during this panic, and the rest would just hang in there, or maybe 75% would turn over, but not 100%. Let's say 75% of the float turns over. That means 25% of the shareholders held on. That is going to change the box down here in the volume float turnover period. Notice how it is much smaller now. This is just with the assumption, or this is with the assumption, that not every shareholder bails out of a stock. And in the large stocks, you know, the institutions can't all bail out of the stock, so maybe you do not want to use 100% on the float turnover. But I'm going to go back to the default. Just make this 100 again, and watch the box down here. See how it widens out. That's the length of time that it would take, that it has taken this float to turn over based upon volume. I do want to point out that this float volume turnover or float turnover is not meant to work in isolation in HGSI. It is one of the components of volume price analysis. We have VPA, and we also have volume point of control. I just want to talk about VPA today, and this is how you can use this in conjunction with VPA. This is just chart number 2, which you'll be getting. This is an updated version. Notice that I didn't put the warehouse information up here because of all of the other information that's available. So during this period when the stock was selling off, there were some signals in here. There was a one-day reversal. Now I didn't put the group line in here, but had I done that, and I guess I could do that very quickly, edit the current view, and I'll just add indicator, search, group index is what I should have typed group in there. I'll make it the darker line. You have to use private scale because the group is on a private scale, and I always use the dotted line and select the industry group. And there is the industry group. So with the group falling like this, even though you're getting VPA signals a potential one-day bounce, you've got to pay attention to what the group is telling you. And as we get down here, we are seeing several days of stopping volume right here. And then it finally stopped, and then we started getting some more signals. I'm rather than signals, I am starting to call them alerts, because that's what they are. They're flags and alerts. They're not necessarily a buy or sell signal. They are an alert based upon what the security is doing according to price and volume. And you can see that there were several here. Here was a breakout and then a reversal, an up thrust, but at the same time the group turned down that day. But it held up, and this box was widening as volume was falling off. That's it for this video. I just wanted to clarify some things about float volume turnover, and I will be getting these charts and these views posted this weekend sometime, and I'll do a video on how you can update your views and charts and so on. Thank you for listening.